The Olympics feature incredible feats of endurance and strength and represent the peaks of human capability, but they've also had some super weird events over the years, some being so weird that they're no longer even included in the games. Let's run down the 10 strangest, and I really do mean strange. Number 1 is a real doozy. Number 10, live pigeon shooting. Yep, this was real, but only real for a single Olympics, the 1900 Games in Paris. It is exactly what it sounds like. The competition was to kill as many birds as you can. Over the course of the competition, around 300 birds were killed. This was the first and only time the Olympics had an event where animals were deliberately killed, and I think they realize now that it's a super bad look, so much so that this event is not even listed in the official medal records of the International Olympic Committee. There is some guilt there. How do you play this wild game, you might ask? Well, 6 birds would be released 27 meters or about 88 feet in front of competitors, and they would just start emptying the clip. You were eliminated once you missed 2 birds. For those interested, Leon de London of Belgium won the gold with 21 birds killed. Number 9, Tug of War. Honestly, I kind of wish they would bring this one back. Sounds awesome. At every summer games from 1900 to 1920, you and your buddies could get together and do some tugging as a group. Wait, what? Anyways, depending on the year, the teams consisted of a different number of pullers. There were 6 pullers in 1900, 5 pullers in 1904, and 8 pullers for the last 3 games before it was discontinued in 1920. Interestingly, there were several instances of mixed teams where pullers from different countries would play on a combined team. And I think that's kind of nice, really hammers home the international spirit of the games. This included in 1900 where 3 pullers from Denmark and 3 pullers from Sweden came together and won gold. I think mixing nations would make for an even more interesting Olympics. How do we make that happen? Number 8, Croquet. Your favorite lazy summer's afternoon yard game was, if you can believe it, an Olympic sport way back in 1900 in Paris. Seems those Paris games had some weird events. More on that to come actually later in the list. Even though this was an official Olympic event, it was only on the official program for a single year and it never returned, and that's probably for the best. And even for the single year that it was an official event, let's just say it wasn't the most popular event. First of all, there were very few competitors, just 7 men and 3 women, and all of them were from France, so it wasn't exactly internationally competitive. And second, and far more hilariously, only 1 paying spectator attended the event. 1. Croquet doesn't deserve much, but it definitely deserves better than that. Number 7, rope climb. This is another event that I absolutely think needs to return. The rope climb would actually go down really well today, as it's got that ninja warrior feel to it, don't you think? This event was featured at 4 different Olympic Games in 1896, 1904, 1924, and 1932. No idea why they were staggered like that, but here you go. In the last 3 iterations of this, the competitors had to climb to a height of around 8 meters or 25 feet, which doesn't seem like much to me. However, in the first version in 1896, they had to climb 14 meters or 45 feet in the air. 45 feet, that is intense and frankly a little dangerous, and I like a little danger in my Olympics. They also competed outside, and I think that makes it even wilder. Imagine if it was even a slightly windy or rainy day. Madness. Number 6, 12-hour cycling race. So much to unpack with this one. It only featured in a single Olympics, the 1896 Games in Athens, Greece, but oh man, was there a lot to talk about with this one. Okay, to begin, the event is exactly what you'd think. You get on your bike and you start pedaling as far as you can over the next 12 hours. Only the men, no women's event, so sexist, but I didn't make it happen. Also, it's the only event in the history of the Olympics that is based on a fixed time rather than a fixed distance, which is pretty cool. I think bringing that concept back would actually be kind of fun. In addition, many of you Olympic fans know that the marathon typically is the last event of the Summer Games, but not in 1896, which is hugely ironic given that the marathon was super Greek and these games were in Greece. Oh no, the 12-hour cycling event closed out the games with honor. So how far did they go in those 12 hours, you may ask? The winners ended up reaching nearly 300 kilometers over those 12 hours, which would probably be nothing by today's standards, but with the tech and the roads like they were back then, it's not terrible. In fact, it's quite impressive. That is especially true when you consider that apparently the weather was awful that day. So much so that they actually canceled the separate rowing events, but they let the cycling race go ahead. And indeed, only 2 competitors actually finished the 12 hours, meaning they didn't even hand out a bronze medal. Amazing. We're halfway, and if you thought the first 5 events were wild, just wait until we tackle the top 5. We got some gems incoming. If you haven't already, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel. We got plenty more wild lists where this one came from. Number 5, solo synchronized swimming. Most of the events so far have been old-timey events, and don't worry because we got plenty more of those to come, but solo synchronized swimming breaks that mold. This event was held at 3 Olympic Games between 1984 and 1992. And yes, it took 3 iterations of this event for people to realize that one person can't synchronize with anyone. For the synchro fans out there, don't worry, you still got your 2-person and your 8-person versions of this, all good. Maybe they were just thinking they could synchronize to music, not other people, but if that's the case, then damn, nearly anything can be synchronized to music. Synchronized cooking, synchronized yard work, synchronized video editing. Boom, 3 new Olympic sports for you. You're welcome. Number 4, swimming underwater. This was a fun one, I think. I think if they played around with the format a bit, this one could make a comeback in at least some form. So again, this one only featured at one Olympics, and it was those weirdo 1900 games in Paris. You'd be forgiven though for thinking that this was held in a pool, but oh no, it was held right in the River Seine in the middle of Paris. I wonder how clean it was in 1900. Probably not very. The format was curious too. It was based on a score where you got 1 point for each second you were underwater and then 2 points for each meter you swam under the water. Seems fair enough, though I would personally have just done a distance thing. There is some controversy with this one though, as Denmark's Peter Likberg was clearly the best underwater swimmer, though he chose to swim in circles for the distance portion of the score. But the organizers, ridiculously, measured distance in a straight line, not distance covered. And shocker, it meant a French guy won in the Paris Olympics. Utter robbery, Likberg got hosed. Number 3, plunge for distance. So you may think that the Olympics are only for the fittest, most athletic human beings on the planet. But at the 1904 Olympics, there was one event where it helped to be fat, if you can believe it. And that event was plunge for distance. The premise of this is relatively simple. Stand there, jump in the water, and see how far you can glide face down. Easy enough. Why does this favor those of a more substantial and prominent physical stature? It's just science, baby. Simple inertia, like icebergs floating through the ocean. Unfortunately, because this event is boring AF and required 0 physical or mental capabilities, it was a one and done event, never to return to the Olympics again. And you know what? I think we're missing out. It should come back. Number 2, dueling pistol. In this modern day and age, with gun violence an ever-present concern in so many corners of the world, it is wild to think that shooting each other would be an Olympic sport, but somehow that was the case at the 1908 Olympics in London. There were actually 2 events for this, not just one. There was a 20-meter and a 30-meter pistol duel event. I don't know why, but there were. And before you freak out, they used wax bullets and also wore substantial protection to cover their torsos, faces, and hands. So there was some degree of safety. Teams from France, the UK, and the USA competed. Of course, the Americans had a dueling pistols team. Though they only got the chance to compete once because this event was promptly canceled and never brought back. And honestly, that's probably for the best. Number 1, art competition. Art competition. This one has to take the top spot today. An art competition at the Olympics. Oh yes, but it is even crazier and more substantial than just that. Lots of these events that we've talked about have been one and done competitions, but not the art competition, if you can believe it. It featured at every Olympic Games from 1912 to 1948. That is quite the stretch. Medals were awarded for works of art that were inspired by sport, and if you can believe it, there were 5 categories: architecture, music, literature, painting, and sculpture. Not just one art category, 5 art categories. The madness. Not surprisingly, the oldest ever winner of an Olympic medal came from this event when John Copley of Great Britain won a silver medal in 1948 for his etchings and engravings at the tender age of 73. At that age, you should be running for US president, not winning an Olympic medal, am I right? While I applaud the thought of awarding achievement in non-athletic areas, this is too bananas to be an Olympic event, so it's probably best that this one has dropped off the list. The Olympics are super duper fun and super duper weird, don't you think? Which events did I miss from today's list? Leave them in the comments below because I could not put all the wild ones on there. I missed a bunch, throw them down there. Thanks for watching, my little athletes.